Metroid Dread calls to a primal side of me. More specifically, it calls back to my younger years as a video game fanatic. Back then, video games were basic. Sure, you had your text adventures and godlike games, but if you were a young kid with a Nintendo, chances are you were playing through Super Mario Bros. 3 for the 50th time, trying to find new secrets and seeing if you could beat the game faster than you ever did before. While I'm not complaining about how far games have evolved to this point, I love my simulation games, playing Metroid Dread was an absolute blast. It constantly drove me to go forward, try again, find the next item, explore high and low, master the controls, and beat the game. Dread is gaming in its purest form, a divine experience from a company that really ignited my love for gaming in the first place. This isn't Metroid Prime 4, but that's more than okay with me because I honestly wouldn't rather have Metroid any other way than what we get right here. So what's the dread in Metroid Dread all about? Picking up where Metroid Fusion left off, bounty hunter Samus Aran has destroyed all the Replicant X parasites on planet SR-388, including the SA-X, which replicated Samus herself. Just when they thought their Metroid and X problem was solved, the Galactic Federation is sent a mysterious video from an anonymous source showing an X-parasite alive and well on planet ZDR. The Federation sends 7 robots known as the EMI, or Extraplanetary Multiform Mobile Identifiers, guess how many times it took me to get that straight while recording this, to investigate ZDR and get to the bottom of this video. But when the Federation loses all communication with the EMI, they send Samus down to ZDR to find out what happened. Soon after arriving at ZDR, Samus is attacked by the Federation's own EMI robots. With the help of the AI known as Adam, you must explore the planet and uncover the mysteries of the X-parasite, who sent the video, and what is happening to the possessed EMIs. Dealing with the EMIs is intense, as they will hunt you down relentlessly. They track you via sound, so they basically know your every move, and they can get through tight spaces with ease. Like most other enemies, you do have a chance to parry their attacks, but even if you parry, you won't be able to hurt them until you locate the Omega Cannon in each area. Until then, they are indestructible, meaning running through their zones is the absolute best option most of the time. Again, there are 7 of these EMIs roaming around in different areas, so you won't be running into them constantly, but they're spread out pretty evenly through the game. Exploration is one of Metroid's biggest gameplay loops, and honestly, it can be equally as aggravating as it is rewarding. Most of Dread's exploration is pretty straightforward. It's constantly putting you in the right direction to open up more of the map. However, there are instances where you can easily miss the next area because of a cryptic block. There was a spot earlier in the game where I spent almost 30 minutes wandering around looking for the way forward, only to find out that all I had to do was shoot the ground in a certain area. There were no indications telling me, yeah, look over here. I just had to randomly shoot. Further into the game, when you have much more of the map open to explore, you can venture so far off the beaten path collecting items and exploring that you forget what direction the game was trying to lead you in the first place. Once you figure out where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do though, it gives you a second wind and propels you to push further. In talking with others currently playing Dread, I've heard some people say they've had little to no problem with the map and beat the game with veritable ease. I've also heard people say that they're not having much fun with the game because they're constantly getting lost and confused. As you can see, enjoyment with Dread can vary drastically. The combat, the movement, the power-ups, it's going from basic bounty hunter to a world beater. And I think Dread is the best playing Metroid game in the series. The movement is so smooth. Every time I pull off a slide under an enemy's legs or an Aeon boost across the room to evade an attack, I get a huge rush of adrenaline. Pulling off a parry also feels tremendous. But I think Dread leans too heavily on defeating enemies with that parry move. Not that Samus's projectiles are meaningless or anything, but enemies and bosses are all weakest to the parry and the shot thereafter. Most of the power-ups you know and love are here, including the Morph Ball, Screw Attack, and Gravity Suit. There are so many power-ups, in fact, that near the end of the game, I often forgot I had certain power-ups that aren't often used. Using these power-ups to uncover new areas is as great as it's always been. As good as Metroid Dread is, I can't help but feel the game is being held back by the Nintendo Switch hardware. Load times between bigger areas are atrocious. Luckily, you're not usually having to experience these long loading screens back to back, but they're there, and you do have to wait. While the environment can be lacking a lot of the time, and you can see a lot of jagged lines in certain areas, I feel like the art direction is actually very nice. Especially when you get to some of those later areas of the game, Dread looks like a standard industrial setting early on, but you eventually get to more natural elements mixed in, and it makes for some beautiful sections of the map. Speaking of the map, Dread's maps are huge. There's tons of real estate to explore, and some will salivate at that thought and sink their teeth in, while others will be intimidated, and I can understand both. So long as you take it bit by bit, the maps are quite manageable. I do wish Dread had a little bit more to it. After beating the game, you unlock a hard mode, and you can always go back and find all the items in each area, but some sort of time trial mode or perhaps a procedurally generated VR mission option would have at least kept players involved with the game for a longer period of time. It may not be as in-depth as some of the latest Metroidvania games on the market, although the thought of a side-scrolling Metroid with RPG elements really gets me excited, and it may not be as charming as Super Metroid or Fusion, but Dread does what it does so well. The atmosphere, music, enemies, collectibles, and length are all exactly what they should be, and while we'd all like to explore the story and world of Metroid more, keeping the story to a minimum is perfect. In some cases, the less we know, the better. Adding the tense moments with the Emmy robots changes up the formula enough, and while they are annoying most of the time, killing them off is a rewarding feeling that is nearly unmatched. The music is atmospheric, so it's not going to be hit after hit after hit playing as you explore these maps, but personally, I think that actually matches the game's Dread setting or feeling much better than just having all the same music we've had before. Okay, so my final time clocked in at almost exactly 12 hours, but that doesn't count failed boss fight attempts or dying while exploring without saving for a while, so I'd put my true time somewhere around 20 hours. For me, that makes that $60 price tag a little hard to accept. However, by the end of my adventure, my heart was racing after a multi-tiered final bout, and the story reveals were cool enough to at least make my jaw drop a little bit. Metroid Dread immediately launches itself into the conversation of best game on the Nintendo Switch, and that's saying a whole lot due to the other amazing games we've gotten in the 4 short years that we've had the Switch in our hands. Here's to Metroid Dread, and here's to more excellent side-scrolling Metroid games, hopefully in the near future. Thank you so much for watching this review. Let me know in the comments if you're picking up Metroid Dread. If you did pick it up, what do you think about it? What would you rate it? And until next time, this is Lex, signing off.